Michael Shane Neal, welcome back to the Undraped Artist Podcast.
I'm excited to be with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So I'm excited about this because in 1 week, something important is happening. And that's the reason I wanted you on the podcast, so we can kind of make that announcement. I'll just get that right out of the way. And maybe you could tell me what's happening in 1 week from the time we'll be posting this.
So February the 5th is the deadline for the Portrait Society's annual portrait competition, which was renamed a couple of years ago the International. And the deadline is about a week away. I'm excited that we will, again this year, have thousands of entries from all over the world. Those who are hard at work in their studios right now, still trying to put the finishing touches on things, you'll have until midnight on February the 5th to get your entry in. And they're beginning to come in droves at this point now.
Are they really?
Yeah. And the last day will be crazy. And actually, last year, in the last couple of hours, we were getting so many hundreds at a time that it blew up the website and everything shut down. It literally locked it up. And so we had to extend it for a few hours because the thing wouldn't accept anything for a while.
Yeah.
But it's a good problem to have.
That's awesome. You know, I think it was Daniel Keyes. Don't quote me on this, but I feel like I remember Daniel Keyes having issues with, yes. And then he turned in, because he had issues with it, he turned in one he wasn't planning on turning in because the first one got rejected or something. It probably had something to do with that website thing.
Yeah,
and
we had it. I mean, unbelievably, you think the technology can handle it, but we've had it a couple of times where just so many hits are coming in at one time, and I guess the server just can't handle the amount of information, and it's frozen on us. But
well, it worked for him
behind the scenes.
He ended up getting the Draper Prize that year.
It worked for him very well. Yes,
yeah,
it did.
It worked for him.
He should be glad that whatever it was he entered, didn't make it, because there you go, ended up with the grand prize.
Yeah, no kidding. So Christine was telling me that people have been entering since like last July, though.
Yeah, sir. There are a few, which is uncharacteristic for artists, isn't it? There are a few people that have their ducks in a row and they get their things in very early. But the majority of us, I think, I certainly speak for myself, tend to work on things until the last minute. And it's, I think you probably find the same as I do. You don't want to let it go. You wonder if it's really ready. And that's true with clients, and it's true with competition. So that last couple of hours, it'll be crazy, the things that are coming in so fast.
Yeah, well, I'm submitting one this year, and I've had it done for like a month. And
awesome.
Yet I'm still probably going to submit right on February 5th. So you give us too much credit, I think we're just chronic procrastinators. I still have to get it photographed and everything else before I submit it. So it'll probably be right there at the deadline. So
well, I'm excited that you're entering. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I mean, $50,000. Who wouldn't want to enter?
$50,000 first prize. That's huge. I think it's the second largest in the world. I think there's one other competition that's a little more, but we did this last year and it was great success. And it was really, really an exciting year to celebrate our 25th. So, it was sort of like we got the genie, sort of let the genie out of the bottle. We realized that once we had done that for 50,000, it was hard to go back down. So we said, okay, let's go for it. And, as I was talking to several people last year that were so thrilled with their awards, but and Paul Newton, who won, said, this is it's kind of life-changing award, because not only was it 50,000, but in Australian dollars, it was more than 50,000.
Yeah, that's what he was telling me. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and it had the same buying power, as what we have here. So he got a little bit more.
Yeah, I think he said it was like 7,500 or something in Australia.
75,000?
Oh, 75,000. Right. Yeah. No, it got reduced to 7,500. No, 75,000, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when I won 20 23 years ago, it was $1,500.
Are you serious?
Yeah, which I didn't care. I would have paid $1,500 to have won, you know. So I was
Man,
thrilled. But yeah, in those
yeah.
days, there wasn't a lot of cash to be awarded.
Now, what is the policy on that? Can you re-enter now that you're a Draper Prize winner, or you're kind of cut off at that point?
Cut off. Yeah. They made that decision years and years ago. I think it might have been that way since the beginning or close to the beginning, that if you ever won the grand prize, you could not enter again. I used to joke that I wouldn't do it again because I had won and I didn't want to get, like an honorable mention the next year. But then I found out I couldn't enter again. So yeah, if you win, you can't enter again.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So where is it located this year?
This year, this year our conference will be in Atlanta, Georgia. I was just looking down my notes to make sure I didn't forget the name of the hotel, the Grand Hyatt Atlanta in Buckhead, which we've been to a number of times. It's a really great location. One of the reasons I love it so much is, first off, it's easily accessible by car or by plane. It's very centrally located. The hotel itself is in a great environment that has restaurants and shops all around it. So not only when you come for the conference, but also your family that might join you has things to do while you're in at the conference and some of the classes. So it's really a great location, and I love it.
Hmm. You know what? I want to go back actually to the contest.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, forgive me for sort of bouncing around here, but
All right.
I'm kind of curious about something. So how does this whole process work? And I actually had a student
Yeah.
ask me about it, and I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah,
How's the
sure.
initial judging work? And then how does that compare to the judging between the top 20?
Yeah. So it begins with Christina Agnoski, our executive director, and a committee of artists and staff that she pulls together and does pre-screening. So you've got judges, staff, and Christine Agnoski, our director, looks through hundreds and hundreds of paintings together. They get feedback from the judges.
Are the judges
They
different
talk
every
about
year?
judges are different every year. Yes.
Okay.
Now, sometimes the judges, I mean, sometimes there'll be a judge or two that has judged before, but almost every year there is some new judges that are a part of both the screening, there's two stages of screening, and then the finals that are in the room
Hmm.
in Atlanta
And
this
how do
year.
you choose these judges?
The judges come usually from recommendations from the board or from the director, Christine,
Okay.
and they're most often faculty members from past or present. And as you know, we've now had dozens of faculty that have committed to being a part of the conference each year or to our webinars or other things. These are professional artists, usually. Occasionally, in the finals, and I mean in the room, there is a curator or some kind of an expert that is asked to join some working artists. But
Hmm.
typically, they're pretty seasoned professional artists. Sometimes you might find a younger judge, but their work is just exceptional. And maybe they haven't been in it for 30 years, but they are exceptional artists. And so the initial screening that is done by a series of artists with assistance from the staff and from Christine Agnoski, they narrow down the work to a more manageable number. So once they all agree, they've all reviewed all of the images, they then will agree on a bucket of so many that they think are ready to make the next step of judging. And that will still be, it all depends on the number of entries, but let's say there are 3,000 entries. In phase one, about half of those will not leave that first phase of judging. And then the next 1,500 go to the second phase of judging. And then that is done in all of that. By the way, that first part is done not in person, but is done, via communication on emails and phone calls and Zoom. So they're all looking at these things and talking to each other at different times. And then they all come together and meet in person and look at that last 1,500 actually on a big projection screen, like a giant television.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of this is not done, obviously from the original paintings. They're done from the photographs that are sent in, which of course is extremely important that people feel very good about the photograph that they have. At the same time, we realize that what we're looking at on one screen may not be exact. So a lot of times, not a lot of times, every time, there is there's a computer screen along with a television screen, plus the judges are looking on these things at the same time on their telephones. So there'll be like several different digital devices
Really?
going. Yeah, and there'll be discussion about is there a consensus as, like there's a piece that they're really latched in on and they're discussing it, and someone says something like, I wish that green were not so intense. And then they say, well, wait a minute, the green's not that intense on these other 4 devices.
Mm.
And so then sometimes there's been times when the judges actually have to, through our director, Christine Agnoski, contact the artist for clarification on something to say, is this cropping exact, or there was a strange reflection that we weren't sure if it was part of the painting or if it was a poor photograph, but the piece is so strong, but maybe there's a question about the photograph. So sometimes they'll take a moment and they'll contact the artist and say, is this image, something about this image exactly correct? So
Boy.
anyway, point is, these artists are now looking at them together and they're discussing them together. And then they will slowly whittle down the paintings to a smaller and smaller manageable number. So once it goes through that initial phase of say taking 1,500 paintings out, they've all agreed they don't believe they're ready for the next step of judging. And then they're looking at the next 1,500. A painting, if it gets one of the 3 judges that are in that, if one person wants to see it stay in the consideration pile, it stays in. If all 3 don't, then it goes. Whatever's left after that round of going through that 1,500 that had 1, 2, or 3 yeses, then it has to have 2 yeses to stay in that next round of judging. And sometimes you'll have one judge that just really wants to champion a piece, and they try to convince the other judges that this really should stay. And they advocate for it. And if they convince the judges to get, or at least one more judge to say yes, then it stays for another round of judging. So you get 2 yeses, it goes to another round. The only things that make the final basket for judging are things that have had 3 yeses of the 3 judges that are on site at that stage of the judging. So is that making sense?
Yeah, but you must have more than 20 with 3 yeses.
Oh my goodness. Usually it gets down to about 250 to 300
Oh my God.
that are all yeses. Out
Okay.
of, so 10% will make it through what has now been a lot of hours of judging. You've gone through a dozen, maybe more, 24 hours of the pre-judging. Then you've got another dozen hours of going through for that second phase of judging. And now you're down to 300 pieces, and all 3 judges like the pieces. So then it is usually about a 2 to 3 day process of trying to get it down to 20. And, I've watched this for years. I mean, you have to step out and get fresh air. You have to, you just get,
man.
you can't decide, so what then will happen is usually after about 2 to 3 days of the in-person judging, they will get it down to about 75. And then it becomes just like, it's a bloody battle. It's just really tough. And you start, trying to, it's really difficult because you're really trying to essentially weigh one painting against the other paintings that are a part of those pieces that have been submitted. You do try to look at them as individuals, but at the same time, you can't help but remember that you saw that painting of so-and-so's that you liked even a little better. So you say, well, if I'm going to pick between these 2, I'm going to pick this one. But they're all good. When you get down to that last 75, really, if you get down to that last 300, they're all really, really good. So it gets extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And then what happens after that is the judges will finally agree on 20 paintings. Now, you remember in the past, there's been times when there's 22, 21, or 23 that just couldn't get to 20. They just absolutely couldn't do it. You finally are exhausted and nobody is giving up or giving in. And so the 3 judges say, well, Christine, we can't help it, but we can't get it down to 20. It's impossible. So we've expanded it. But the problem is, the reason we don't like to do that is it reduces the amount of money that people win, the
Oh,
more people
yeah.
that are in the room. So we're trying to keep it to 20. When I was a part, when I entered in 2001 and got the prize, it was 10 pieces they narrowed it down to in those days.
Really?
But now it's 20. So when those pieces, that 20 finalists are now the ones that are going to the conference in person, those are then sent to that location. They are in a room, and many people have seen this. They're on display. The artists that are chosen on site to help hang the room work really, really hard to make sure that each piece is in its very best light. As you know, there's hours that goes in. Usually it's about a day, a solid day of just taking this painting or this drawing or this piece of sculpture and trying it here against this piece or trying this piece against that piece to make sure that if one piece happens to be extremely large and it's in the finals, and then another piece is in the room, but it happens to be, like a small 8x10, well, you've got to really make sure that you're complementing each piece and that you're not letting the scale of one, cause the other one not to be seen in its best light. So they spend Ed Jonas, who was our chairman for many years. I really you talk about not being able to sleep at night. I really think he lost sleep over trying to get those paintings and sculptures and drawings in the very best possible position in the room so that it did the best for that artist.
Oh, that's really considerate to
It's
do that.
incredible how much time goes into that. Now Don Whitelaw has sort of taken over, one of our board members has taken over that role of being sort of the director of that installation process. She's a very seasoned artist, been around in the porch society now since the beginning. And then once those are in the room, as you know, we open the doors and the 700 or 800 people that are there for the conference enjoy seeing the paintings for several days. There's a People's Choice Award they vote for. And then on the second day of the conference, they close up the gallery. There are 3 judges that are selected. They're different each year. And, or at least sometimes there might be a person that carries over from one year to the next, but most often there's a different series of judges. Those 3 are then in the room, and then there are a couple of people that are monitors there to sort of watch that the rules of the judging are followed carefully and the criteria. And then if I recall, and I've been a part of this for over 25 years, and I have never been a finalist judge ever.
Really?
But I've been a monitor on several occasions, and the way they've started doing this in the last couple of years, if I recall correctly, is there's a point system.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's 1 through 5. And 1 being, they don't like it as much, and 5 being they love this piece. And they each take their clipboards and they walk around independently, and they'll come up to, an artist's piece, and they'll say, I love this piece, I'm giving it a 5. I love this piece, I'm giving it a 5. I don't like this piece as well, I'm giving it a 3. And then they come in and turn in that clipboard, and then the staff add up the points from each artist. And so whoever has the most points, let's say it's a clear winner. Let's say somebody has the most points. They've got 15 points. Then the judges go over and talk it out to make sure that they all agree that this is the one they like the most. But what almost always happens, Jeff, is that there's 2 or 3 that have gotten the total number of points. And then there's a couple that are tied for second, and then there's 3 that are tied for third. So then they've really got to start digging it out with each other. So after that point system is done, then it's all done through conversation. The judges actually talk it out until they settle on the prizes.
Wow. So isn't there?
It's a long.
Yeah, but the Draper Prize, that one is decided by the judges as well as first, second, and third?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't realize that. For some
Yeah.
reason, I was under the impression there was some other, like some person named Draper that decided on the Draper Prize.
So Bill Draper. Well, do you know Bill Draper? I know he was.
No, I don't know Bill Draper.
So Bill Draper was an incredible artist who lived in New York City his entire life. He had studied with Charles Hawthorne when he was a young man, and he was a well-known artist during World War II for doing a lot of Navy art, a lot of battle scenes and things like that. He was in the Navy. And then he went on to be a portrait painter. He was quite a society portrait painter in New York City. And he was friends with the Kennedy family and on and on. And he painted a famous portrait of John F. Kennedy from life with Kennedy sitting in his rocking chair, sort of a vignetted head and shoulders painting. You've probably seen that.
Mm-hmm.
He lived and worked. He was over 90 when he passed away. I think it was the early 90s. He was the first gold medal recipient at the very first Portrait Society conference 26 years ago. He was an avid pianist and painter. He played the piano that year at the conference, and he also demonstrated. He would only work from life, Jeff. He would not work from a photograph, and never did his entire career, only from life. And anyway, he passed away about 20 something years ago, 22 or 3 years ago, and they decided to rename the first prize after him, the Bill Draper Grand Prize. He was a very dear friend of Dan Green, Ray Kinsler, and others, some of our founding executive board members. And I thought he was a colorful man and an amazing artist. Very kind of Robert Henright-esque in the way he approached his work, very direct.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's what it's named for. But yes, the judges actually award that prize, and it's I could tell last year that it was it's a big responsibility every year, but to award $50,000 is a super big responsibility. So there was extra time spent, I could tell, in judging last year. It seemed to even be harder than ever.
So do the judges stay anonymous so they don't get jumped if
No,
people don't like
they
the
don't.
decision?
No, I actually, at the award ceremony every year, as part of my remarks, I always list the judges. For many years, we didn't. And Ray Kinsler had said, really, for probably a couple of years before they finally started doing it, he said, I really think it would be a good idea, as long as the judges are willing to announce who it was, so that people know who's judging it. And so we started doing it at the dinner every year. I always list the judges.
So is that something you could tell us now, or we have to wait till dinner? Who the judges will be?
I actually don't know the final judges this year, but I will. I'm going to be. Well, I do know one. I'm going to be a finalist judge for the first time ever.
Yeah, hey, awesome.
Yeah, so I'm going to be in the room for the first time ever as a judge. I don't know the other two judges. The preliminary judges this year is the sculptor. Is it Alicia Ponzio? Is that right?
Yeah. Right? Sculptor. Interesting. Okay.
Sculptor. Dawn Whitelaw is one of the judges this year in the preliminary. Let's see. I'm trying to remember that. That's the only two I can remember. But there's another professional artist judge, and then there will be a couple of staff members that will be there for advice and counsel as they go through it. And then Christine Agnoski has been a part. She has been sitting in the room for every single painting that has ever been seen that has been entered in the Portrait Society for 26 years.
Let me just take a minute to plug my sponsor, Rosemary Brushes. These are not Rosemary brushes. I'm a brush junkie. So when I go to an art supply store, I have to admit, on occasion, I will be tempted to buy a brush, even though it's not from Rosemary. But it's rare. And here's the reason why it's rare. Because this is what happens to other brands. This is basically a new brush. I bought it last summer. And this one right here, a good brand, supposedly, the hairs are literally coming right out. This brand, also a well-known brand, got this last year. Already the ferrule busted off. Now I could glue it on, but why should I have to glue it on? Brushes are expensive. This needs to be crimped better. So why do I love Rosemary brushes? Two reasons. One, because they're an amazing company and their brushes are freaking high quality. This brush from Rosemary is a good example. It's gorgeous. It's tight. It's well made, and it'll last forever if you take care of it. The other reason is because Rosemary is an amazing family-owned company. They provide amazing service. They're awesome people to work with, and you can't go wrong by buying their product. So for your next painting, head over to rosemaryandco.com and pick up some more brushes.
I would like to know how many that is, but it is now in the tens of thousands, and she has seen every single entry.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, and I have never been a judge of this particular contest, but I've had the privilege of being the judge of some of your contests throughout the year, and it's hard even with just like 250 people. I can't even imagine, or submissions. I can't even
Yeah,
imagine
yeah,
how intense this would be starting at around 3,000 and working your way down.
yeah. And it's I can tell you, I can assure you, and I've now been on the board since 2010. I have been a preliminary judge a number of times. Um, the the seriousness in which the judges take this, I cannot, I really can't say it strongly enough. They care so much about each and every painting, sculpture, and drawing that is submitted. They discuss some pieces at great length. Um, they anyone who I've seen this many times with Ed Jonas, who has passed away now. Who was a great sculptor and was our director for a number of years. Anybody that said no to something very quickly, if it felt too quick to him, he was the first person in the room to say, "Why did you say that so quickly?" You know, just like just get. I want to hear why'd you react that quickly? Why were you a no within 10 seconds of it popping up on the
Yeah,
screen?
you got to wonder about bias when it's real fast.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
most of the judges do take their time and will be considerate of every single painting. And even if instinctively they felt it didn't sort of tick any of the boxes on in the list of things that they felt like it should, they'll still take a moment to discuss why. And I love that. I think it's fantastic that they take so many. They take this so seriously, and they take so much time as they go through it.
You know, I've been involved with you guys for about 11 years, I think.
Uh huh.
10 or 11, 12, I can't remember exactly, but over a decade. And a question I often get after the contest, I'm not going to tell you what I say, but I already think I know the answer to this question. But I want to ask, just in case there's people in the audience that have this same question, is if someone doesn't agree with the winners, the go-to response oftentimes is, "Oh, this contest is political." You know, like there's some favoritism for some reason or another. I don't know if you've heard that criticism before, but you hear that
Well,
criticism about any
yeah.
contest. And I'm not going to tell you what my response is, but I want to get what your response is first, and to that criticism.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it before. I've certainly heard it about ours. I've heard it about lots of others. I, you know, I can assure you that there's nothing political about it at all. I mean, the judges, the artist judges, um, I mean, they're human beings, so they naturally will have bias, even though they try to not.
Yeah,
There's things you're going to like, no matter how hard you try to accept something, because the quality is there, but it might not be your taste. You're going to tend to lean towards one painting or sculpture versus another because it
right.
just, there's something in you that says, no, to me, this is better. But that's why you have multiple judges. And that's why sometimes, let's say, for example, you're a very brushy painter, but there's a classical realist piece that it doesn't really strike you as one of your favorites, but you see that it's quality. But your other two judges are saying this is exceptional. I love it. It just speaks to us. Um, it's I've seen it time and time again where the judges will discuss it and they'll decide that all three are on the same page and that this piece is strong enough, whether it's something that appeals to you stylistically or not, that should be considered for the top prize. Um, but the names are not on the slides when they come up. I mean, you could always blow it up enough to try to read the name. There's nothing but a number on the slide. I know
But
a
you
lot of
often
artists that
recognize certain artists, though. I mean, you
yeah,
can't help
sometimes
not
I
to.
recognize a
Yeah,
painting, a piece, because I recognize your hand or someone else's hand.
right.
But the vast majority of the pieces that come up, I do not know who they are, and nor does anyone else. And we don't seek to try to find out who they are. The only time we will do that is if we have questions that we can't get answered about maybe the reproduction of the image. And so we might inquire as to who it is and might want to actually contact them for clarification on something. But I've been a part of this for 25 years, and I have never seen a single episode of someone trying to push one artist over another because it was a relational, or or they it was a student of the teacher or the artist's judge or anything like that, or
Mm.
even someone that they just wanted to see win a prize. I've never seen that either. I think about so many fabulous artists that you and I know that have entered many times and never won. And I'm sure that I'm sure the judges often say to themselves, "Oh, wow, it's that's really a fantastic painting, fantastic piece of sculpture. But in the room this year, this one is still better, even though this is a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic artist." And
Mm-hmm.
they might really would love to do it, but they just can't because there's a piece in the room that's stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And they may even know the history of an artist and the quality of their work overall, and still think, well, it's just not as good as something else that's in the room.
Yeah.
So I've just never seen it, not once. And that's one of the other reasons that there's always monitors in the room to make sure that no one is being unfairly heavy-handed about trying to convince the other judges into something, and also that their motivations are right and that they are agreeing on the criteria for the winning piece. So yeah, I guess I'm sorry. I guess I don't have a succinct answer, but I can just tell you that I've never seen it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I would tell people. I mean, in the 11 years I've worked with you guys, the integrity of the staff of the Portrait Society and all the people involved, including yourself, is just second to none. So there's just no way it's
Oh,
happening in
thank
this
you.
organization. There's no way. Not
Yeah.
certainly
Oh,
not
there's really not.
intentionally. I mean, you can't know. You can't know. Sometimes we don't even know our own biases, but certainly not intentionally, right?
Certainly not. No,
Yeah.
certainly not. And I hear things like, narrative paintings do better, or self-portraits don't do as well, or vice versa. I mean, self-portraits do better, narratives. I mean, it's just when you look at that 3,000, 3,500 pieces of art that come in, you're just, as a series of judges, judging from that collection of work what you think is the best work that's in there that year. And
Mm-hmm.
you might send a piece this year that, when it collectively looked at in the other 3,000 paintings, it just didn't make it. But next year you enter it again, and a new series of judges see it, and they see it against the other work, and they decide this piece should be in. I've told this
I was
many
hoping you
times.
were going to tell this story. I know what you're
Isn't
going to
it a
tell.
great story?
Yeah,
Is this
tell it
about
again.
the watercolor, the Kinser watercolor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Kinser, so in his studio in New York, all the years that I went there, on his mantle, on his fireplace, was a rejection slip from the American Watercolor Society. I think it was 1970. And next to it was the gold medal from the American Watercolor Society, 1971.
That's just
And
crazy.
what happened was, in 70, he did a watercolor, he entered it into the show, and it got rejected. And the
Completely,
next year, with
completely.
no
Not even in the
roller,
finalist. Not even a
not
finalist.
even in the finals,
Yeah.
nothing, got rejected. Come get your piece. And the next year, the deadline slipped up on him, and he didn't have a piece, and he wanted to enter it, and he thought, oh, what the heck, I'm entered the same painting. So he entered the same painting, and got a gold medal from a different series of judges. And so he put those things side by side, and he said, it was important to me to enter the painting, to, have to put my work in and see how it does against my peers, to see what judges say about my work, and sort of have goals set for myself to enter these shows. But he said, there's a perfect example of, you never know. You never know what
Mm-hmm.
judges are going to see or react to. And certainly one series of judges might see something very differently than another. And so anyhow, I think I think that you truly never know. That's when people ask me, should I enter? Should I enter? I don't know if I could do well. Well, I mean, I don't really know if you can or not either. I mean, I really don't. It just all depends. So enter your best work and give it a shot. I mean, ours is truly the most affordable, I think, portrait figure competition around. I mean, for $50, you get 3 entries.
Mm-hmm.
And 50 bucks, you get a chance at 50,000. It's not too bad. We've got 150,000 and more cash and prizes. But also, by entering those pieces, one of the things that Gordon Wetmore, our first chairman, used to always say is it was a Kennedy quote: a rising tide lifts all boats, is what he used to say. And he used to say that's what this society is about. When you enter, you're actually supporting the competition. You're supporting the competition with your entry fee, but you're also supporting it by working hard to try to do your very best work and to submit it with your fellow members or non-members, and see where the chips fall. But your entry fee goes towards the support of the society and giving the prize money to those that have entered. And so it's a beautiful thing, really, that everybody's supporting each other.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen besides the contest at the conference. Let me see. I want to pull up the website here, or at least the schedule. And this schedule is on the website. So here's the page that talks about the contest here.
PortraitSociety.org.
Yes, PortraitSociety.org.
Longer glasses here.
Yeah, and this is last year's grand prize winner, the Draper Prize winner, Paul Newton. I had him on the podcast.
So, great.
Yeah. Okay. So the schedule is here. And maybe we could talk a little bit about this.
Yeah. So we're going to, as we mentioned earlier, we'll be in Atlanta. We will have over 800 artists. We're also going to have some vendors, manufacturers. We'll have,
artists meaning guests, right?
Sorry?
You said 800 artists. You're referring to guests, not faculty.
No. Yes.
Guests.
So sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Faculty, yeah. We'll have 800 participants.
Right.
And faculty, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Oh, we have about 24 faculty, it looks like. And we'll have 800, the 800 artists there participating. We'll have a number of artists, paint manufacturers, brushes, canvas makers, etc., that'll be there in the vendors room as well. This is our 26th year, and we're going to have 3 pre-conference workshops, which I'm excited about. That's going to be from 9 to 4, which is going to have intensive study of drawing, sculpture, and color studies. There's we have the main stage demos, as you've done several of those, which we're so grateful for your participation over so many years. We have the breakout classes, which you can see there on the schedule on the website you can sign up for.
Mm-hmm.
We also have something that has become extremely popular over the last few years, our 6x9 mystery art sale, which we send out these 6x9 panels to artists and ask them if they would be willing to do a small painting and donate it to the Portrait Society. They sell for, am I right? I think it's $250.
That's what I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And just about every painting will sell at that mystery art sale, which is a fantastic fundraiser for us at the Society. And then we have our banquet, which is when I always call it the Oscars of the portrait painting world.
It feels a bit like that.
So that's when it does. Our international portrait competition will take place. And we start, as you know, from, number 20 and work down to number 1, which it just grows. It gets more exciting as the evening goes. We also have artists, the faculty members will be there for portfolio critiques. So that goes on a number of times each day.
Mm-hmm.
You can wait in line to meet and talk to one of your favorite faculty members, and they can look at your portfolio and talk to you about your work. We will have a number of book signing table as well. So a lot of artists that have written books will be there. The books will be for sale, and you can get them to sign your book, which is always a fun thing. I wrote down a few stats too. I wanted to go through here if I could. Could I mention this?
Absolutely.
Real quick?
Yeah.
So we've got the $50,000 first prize. We've got the $150,000 in cash and prizes, which is divided among those top 20 finalists. Last year we had 3,075 entries. Pretty remarkable. And the deadline is coming February the 5th at midnight. The entry fee, $50, which I mentioned earlier, for 3 images. And as you know, we're a non-for-profit, so all of this money goes right back into all of our educational resources that we produce every year, with a great deal of volunteer effort from our faculty. No one is paid. Just about. We will occasionally help an artist that is on the faculty by giving them a place to stay when they get there, but otherwise they do this for nothing. And except for the satisfaction of helping the membership. The number of volunteer hours is incredible that go into each year. And, we just grow and grow in membership and grow in support. So we're just thrilled with the work that we see our volunteers doing, our faculty and staff, and we're thrilled to see how rewarding it is for our membership. We get really fantastic emails talking about how meaningful not only the conference is, but how meaningful being a member of the society is each year.
Mm-hmm. So I've got a couple questions. You said there's going to be like 700 or 800 artists there or guests of the Portage Society Conference. Is there a cap, has that cap been reached, or can people still register today?
No, you can still register today, and there is actually a physical cap, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 800. I mean, there's a moment at which we don't have enough support staff to manage that many or enough hotel rooms. Now, sometimes we do run out, even though we'll have the whole Hyatt, we will run out, and then you'll find some people will stay somewhere nearby and then come to the conference. But there is I forget how many rooms there are, but there's a large number of rooms in the hotel. 800, we have had 850 in Atlanta before, 840 something. It was nearly 850, and we were able to support that many. So we'd love to see it max out. That would be great.
And how close are you? Do you know?
I didn't get that update from the office. But the last time I checked on signups was actually about 2 months ago, and it was very strong. It was hundreds already. So I would say we're probably right on target. I would have, let's put it this way. If we weren't on target, I would have heard.
Okay, good. But you can still sign up. So you
can still sign up.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. It's not too late.
And it's so cheap.
In fact, by the way, we will have some people that will walk up and see if they can sign up the day that it starts. And that's possible. We can make it happen.
Yeah, it is so inexpensive. I was looking on the website again. Isn't it, what is it, like $500 or $600 for non-members and five something for...
That sounds right. I don't have it in front of me. But it's about that. Yeah, it's, if you look at inflation and where it was when it started 25, 26 years ago, it is still extremely affordable. I mean, when we first began, it was about $300 26 years ago. Now it's around $600, but it's very, very much still one of the most affordable conferences you can be a part of as an artist conference. And the value you get is incredible.
Unbelievable.
You've been a part, and you've talked about it. You were mentioning it earlier. I mean, I've stayed a part of this for so long. Yeah, there we are. I've stayed a part of this for so long because of the incredible value, but also of the commitment and how much the artists care about sharing, and how there's a real sense of camaraderie and sort of family sort of atmosphere with the artist. The art, you're with your, as I forget who it was said last year, but you're with your tribe. You can feel it, know it when you walk in the door. But artists are a little bit unique when you compare it to other professions in their willingness to share. You just don't find artists trying to hide any kind of trade secrets. They want to tell you what they've discovered works. And they're anxious for you to try it too and see if it works for you. And it's so beautiful when you see collections of groups of people off to the side after lectures, demonstrations, on-hand conference breakout sessions, where they're sharing and excited about what they've just learned. And then they continue to talk and even to paint sometimes, as you're seeing around the hotel. Even after their classes, they're still wanting to be a part of sharing. So it's really fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. So for those listening and not watching, the member rate is $585 and the non-member rate is $685. Now, if I remember correctly, to become a member, it's only around $100. So
yeah, that's right.
You'd kind of be crazy to not just become a member and pay the member rate, because then you have the benefit of being a member.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And student rates is a little less than that too. So there's even a student rate, and there are scholarships each year. So I don't know if the deadline is passed for that yet or not, but if you go on the website, there's a place for you to apply for a scholarship. We give a number of scholarships each year, and
yeah,
that's something I encourage you to do as well. It never fails. I always have at least 3 or 4 people that come up and find me and mention their scholarship recipients, and they want to thank the society and talk about what it's meant to them. And it doesn't necessarily go to young people. It goes to just whoever the committee decides they feel the application is most worthy of receiving the scholarship.
Yeah. You know, I just taught a workshop at Scottsdale Artist School, and I was encouraging a lot of the people in my class to come to this. And I don't even remember what they pay for my workshop, but it's more than $685 for the week.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah,
then they have to pay for a hotel and plane fare unless they're
right.
from Arizona. So, but they're only studying with me. I mean, the beauty
Mm.
of this whole thing is there's 24 approximately professional artists there, all, you know, sharing their knowledge, all for less than the average workshop.
Right, right. And and we're thrilled you're going to be a part this year. So we thank you for that. And you've been a part for a number of years. You've been a great demonstrator and also lecturer and moderator. You've done that too,
Yeah,
beautifully.
I
Um,
appreciate that. I'll be doing
oh,
that again this
fantastic.
year.
Oh, so I've got the list of the participants. Uh, Luis Alvarez, who was one of our past winners, he's going to be one of the faculty this year. He actually won the competition about 3 or 4 years ago. Fantastic artist and great teacher. Anna Rose Bain, who's been a part of the society for a long time. I remember meeting her when she was so young, and she still is young, but she was super young. I don't even think she was 20 years old the first time I met her.
Hmm.
Such a talented artist, great demonstrator. Um, Gwyneth White, who I don't know as well, but is going to be a part this year. Francis Bell, coming all the way from the UK. Jason Bolden, who's not been a part for a number of years. He's been on the faculty in the early days of the Porch Society. He won the competition about 2002 or three, and he's from Mississippi, a great artist. His father was Marshall Bolden, the great portrait painter, and also the gold medal winner, gold medal recipient a number of years ago. I think he was about 9 years old when he got that.
Hmm.
Wendy Green, Wendy Caparelli Green. She is Dan Green's widow, a wonderful pastelist, great teacher. Lewis Carr. Lewis started lecturing and demonstrating just about 3 or 4 years ago. He's a great artist and is one of the best teachers you'll come across, and I just think he's great. Allie Kavanaugh, I don't know as well, but thrilled to have Allie. Kevin
She's a
Chambers,
watercolorist, if I remember right.
watercolorist,
Yeah.
yeah. Kevin Chambers, Casey Childs, John Coleman, Jamie Corinth, also coming over from the UK, Grace DeVito, and Thomas Caleb Goggins. Caleb Thomas Caleb Goggins. Caleb, who was what we call him. Caleb was an intern with Gordon Wetmore when he was a teenager, and he went to Lime Academy of Art. Is a great teacher, great painter. Liz Harris, Susan Lyon, and my daughter Maddie Ree is one of the young artists coming this year. We've got 4 or 5 young artists that are coming in that are going to be doing a demonstration one evening. Kate Orr is another one of those. Let's see, Oliver Sin, Sharon Sprung, Samuel Walter, and Dawn Whitelaw. Dawn is on our board. Not only great artist, great teacher, and we're thrilled that Dawn continues to be an active part. She's the vice chairman of the Porch Society, and was my first painting teacher, by the way.
No kidding.
And Mary White, incredible watercolorist from Charleston, and always an exceptional demonstrator and teacher. And she's also on the board. So, I mean, what a lineup! It's incredible, and you get to hear from each one of those if you're a part.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a good one this year. Okay, so maybe we could just go over the different types of events that people will
Mhm.
expect. You know, I can think of the main stage demos, which actually it seems like there's less main stage demos than there used to be. Is that, am I
Well, you've probably seen this shift in recent years. There's been a slow shift towards some more on, you know,
more
you
breakout
actually
sessions? It
more
seems like.
breakout sessions and more hands-on demonstrations, hands-on, activities.
Right.
So you're seeing more classes where artists can actually draw, paint, sculpt in class with an artist, and that's been growing. So you're going to see more of that again this year. There are still what we call main stage demonstrations where the entire conference comes together. So, hundreds of people in one room. And we have some of our faculty members to do on stage demonstrations where they are There's two jumbotrons in the room, and I know in your 10 to 12 years you've been apart, you've seen the increase in how technology has improved that. I
Mm-hmm.
certainly have. I mean, when I first started demonstrating years ago, you could hardly see your canvas for the glare from the lights.
Mm-hmm.
You might have to look at the screen to even know what was on your canvas because it was so difficult. They had to blast them with light for the cameras. Well, now these cameras have gotten so sensitive, this new digital stuff, you can actually, as a demonstrator, see exactly what you're doing without struggle. And the quality of those jumbotrons, I call them, these big giant television screens, are great. And the artists are mic'd, and they are talking about what they're thinking and what their process is as they're working. So
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty fantastic. Then there are breakout sessions, so you can sign up for individual classes, and those will go on in smaller rooms off the main room, the main auditorium. And those are usually limited to 25 or 30 people. Sometimes an artist that I know, Rick Casali was teaching the basics of head sculpture, blocking in a head in clay. And I think he had to limit it to about 25 people just to get around to everyone, but it was very successful. Then we will also have lectures, panel discussions. There'll be maybe an individual speaker or a series of artists that will be on a panel that will talk about a particular topic. It could be working in your studio. It could be the business of art. It could be materials. It could be about a particular artist's career and how they've managed their career. It could be about very specific things that relates to portrait and figure painting, and the challenges or the successes, and how an artist has found their way. So lots of that as well. And then I mentioned the portfolio critiques, which are very valuable to participants. And then there's the all important downtime where you're just in the lobby, hanging out with hundreds of other artists, maybe having a drink and just sitting around and talking about your life and your work and getting to know people from all over the world. It's probably one of the very best parts of the conference is those times when you're just able to interact with your fellow artists.
Yeah, we played Pictionary till all hours of the morning in the lobby
Yeah,
one
yeah,
night
yeah,
last year.
yeah.
It
Pretty
was a
much goes until
blast.
1 or 2 in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. Then one
And I
thing,
mean, I've seen other things too, Jeff, where artists they'll go into one of their friends' hotel room and they'll be sitting around the floor, 3 or 4 around the bed and 2 or 3 on the bed. And they've got a model sitting there and they're all painting in the
I
room.
didn't know that.
Oh, I've
No
got a great
kidding.
photo of that from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, artists are nuts. And then one thing I think you missed is one of my favorite events, and that's the Face Off. And that
Oh
happens
my goodness, I
first. That's
did.
the first thing on Thursday night when the,
I can't believe I forgot that.
yeah,
That's
talk about
become one
that.
of the most popular events.
Yeah. So tell
Yeah,
us
that
about
happens the
that.
first night. That'll be in a giant room. There will be, a dozen models set up. All these models are set up all around the room, and there'll be about 3 to 4 artists around each model, and they are not really engaging the attendees. They're just painting, and you can walk around at leisure and watch anybody paint or sculpt that you want to or draw. I know Oliver Sen has done this several times. He works just in charcoal, and you're sort of a fly on the wall, and you're just moving around from person to person and watching them work over a 3-hour period. And we have found it to be one of the most popular events. And people just pack in that room, and it's fantastic. I love it.
The Face Off, in my opinion, or gets the whole crowd excited for the rest of the week or the rest of the weekend. I mean, it couldn't be a better program for the start of the event.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. It is incredible the energy that comes out of that room that you carry with you through the rest of the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gets excited about it. It's so fun to be sort of the fly on the wall and watch each artist work. The artists in this particular series of demonstrations are not actually talking about their process. They're just painting, drawing, sculpting.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go from person to person, artist to artist, sit down in a chair or stand and quietly talk with your friend around you about what you're seeing. And it's just great fun. I love it. And we get, as we every year we send a questionnaire out to all the participants. We ask their opinion about a variety of the programs, the artists that have spoken and demonstrated. And actually, we shape the conference each year based on that feedback. It's so important that we hear from people what they like, maybe didn't like as well, or what they thought was most valuable. Year after year, the Face Off is one of the top rated events, and I can see why, and I love it too. And we'll have some great artists in there this year.
Mm-hmm. And you say they don't talk about their process, but one thing that does happen is, I don't know what it is, like every 25 minutes, there's a 5-minute break. And my
Yes,
experience is that that's when the guests of the Portrait Society conference will come to the artist and start picking their brain for 5 minutes. So there is
you're
some
exactly
interaction with the artist.
you're exactly right. Yes, that's right. Yes, you will see people talking to them during the breaks. I've
Yeah,
noticed some people, when they're actually painting, they will put in, earphones
I
and
do
listen to
that.
music like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I do that.
And it keeps you from being distracted, I guess.
No, it keep because there is the occasional guest that will try and talk to you while you're painting, you
Oh, I
know.
see.
So I put the headphones on, so it's sort of like, hey, I'm not available right now, you know.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's
That's
why I
good.
do it. I don't even have to have anything playing. Just it's just like my it's like, okay, not talking right now. Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
man,
now
that's
everyone knows
good.
my secret. All right.
Oh, I
So,
think that's great, man. It's really fun. It's one of my favorite parts.
yeah, me too. The one thing that I find most incredible is every year I watch all the volunteers and Christine and you and all the other people involved and just it's just like you don't have a minute to talk. I'll be like, "Hey Christine, great to see you. Got to go."
Yeah, yeah,
But it just runs like a fine watch. I mean, everything just runs
yeah,
seamlessly and it seems like it was easy to put together.
yeah. No,
But
it's
I
actually the
don't think
planning.
so.
No, the planning for the next year starts about a week after the end of the last conference.
Yeah.
So, Chris will take a few days off to try to, sort of recover from basically hardly sleeping for 3 or 4 days, really for 5 days, because they get there a couple of days early,
Yeah.
2 or 3 days early. And, but yeah, the logistics of moving the equipment, getting it set up, it's enormous effort. And, you know, if you just think about the fact that we basically have four full-time staffers for over 3,000 member organization. And we have a director, she's got an executive assistant, and then we've got two staffers that work in our office. Everything else is done by volunteers. If you go upstairs at 11 o'clock at night, the second day of the conference, you will find a room with 5 or 6 volunteers in one room. They're on cots. They're getting a few hours sleep before the next morning, and they're doing it because they love to do it. They want to be a part. They know that we're doing a work that is important, and they're excited to be there, excited to have a part and a role in the activities that we're a part of. And I'm just thrilled to see that every year. There are volunteers that we've had that have come for 20 years and volunteered, and they're not paid. They get to come and help out as a volunteer, but they're willing to basically sleep on the floor and do it. And I just don't. If it weren't for the volunteers, we wouldn't be here today.
Hmm.
There's no way, and we still can't do it without volunteer hours. We have to. We just don't have the kind of resources to do anything else. Um, but we're doing well, and that's important because of the support of our membership.
Okay. So my final question for you, unless you have something else to add, is
The only thing I do, I think I want to throw one thing in, if I
okay.
may, just one thing that we started last year that I'm excited about, and this is just related to the Portrait Society as a whole. We have never had an endowment of any kind. We live, it's pretty tight. It always is pretty tight, hand to mouth. And every year when we are not quite, we don't quite have the resources that we need to finish up. We usually ask for a year-end sort of appeal from our membership, and everybody comes through. They send us a few extra dollars that they have to want to help out, and that gets us through. And after a couple of years of talking about this, we launched a thing in January last year called the Sergeant Circle, which is a new funding arm for the Portrait Society. And our core membership makes up by far the bulk of our funding. their $100, or so membership per year. But we just thought, there are people that believe in our mission. There are people that can support us in a larger financial way, greater financial way. And we also just want to share with them what it is that we want to see for the society, and to talk about our future, and what we want our growth to be, and what our goals are. And we started this last January, and it's just going great. And we've got quite a few people that have made contributions, and we're growing that. And I would love for people to check out the Sergeant Circle, those that might feel that it would be a fit for them and fit their charitable giving, and they feel that they have the financial resources to support in that way. We'd love to see them consider us, and you'll find that on the website.
Okay. All right. So my final question is, well, first of all, you've already mentioned that the contest, to submit to the contest, ends in 1 week from the posting of this video. So the 5th of February, right, 2024. It'd be great to see, not for you guys, not for the judges, but it'd be awesome to see even more people sign up this year than last year. It'd be kind of amazing.
I would love it.
Yeah.
I would love it.
So get out there and get your art submitted. But one question I have, though, is what other things besides the contest, besides the education we've talked about, would you say are advantages to coming to the Portrait Society conference? I'll tell you one that I tell everybody: networking. I feel like people, I've made so many good, friendships, really.
Sure.
And
yeah.
coming to the Portrait Society year after year. But I've seen my students, make connections that may be helpful to their careers down the road. I mean, who was it? Stephanie Page Thompson. I know she came at 17 years old, made connections with people like Michelle Dunaway, and I feel like it's really helped her career. I think she would say the same thing. So that's one thing I often tell people. Can you think of another reason that the Portrait Society might be appealing?
I mean, absolutely, for me, number one is inspiration.
Okay.
So, I mean, I leave there every single year so excited, so inspired, so motivated to get back to my studio. I just want to try it. I just want to try the things that I just saw, that I heard. Sometimes it's a variation on something I'm doing. Sometimes it's something totally new. I'd never ever thought about trying this.
Really, even at your level.
Are you? Yes. Are you kidding?
No,
yeah.
I do it too, but I just assume everyone else has kind of got their thing down.
Oh no. I'm still looking for the way.
Same.
I'm always looking for the way. John Johansson, a great artist, used to say that there's no such thing as the way. There's a way, and there's lots of a ways that are taught. And I leave there. I can't wait to get back and try something. Sometimes it's something like using materials you've used for many years, but you never used them in quite that way. And you think, oh, I never thought about that, So inspiration is absolutely number one. And I think it is from us, everybody. I would agree with you that probably the second is not only the networking, both in building new and reinforcing relationships that you've built, building new friendships with artists from all around the world. And then also meeting gallery owners, portrait agent reps, people that can and do help to market and sell artist work are there. They look at portfolios, they look at the competition, they're there mingling and meeting artists. So that's certainly an opportunity that any artist might find could be beneficial to them. But I think that besides that, the other thing that I think is just so important is there's a sense of community, and you feel a part of something. And I think that as artists, often working sort of quietly in our studios with only maybe models coming from time to time or a client coming from time to time, we need relationships, we need community, we need to bounce ideas off of people, we need the support of our friends and fellow artists. And I think these relationships that are built, which I have many that I built only through the Portrait Society. I would never met them any other way. And now it's really easy to stay in touch because of these phones versus when I first started. And we actually wrote each other letters, for heaven's sakes. But, now we can Zoom call or FaceTime or whatever. But to be able to develop relationships with people that are like-minded and have similar ideas about about what their goals are for their work as artists, and to be able to email them, call them up, send them an example of something you're working on and say, hey, tell me what you think about this. That's the kind of friendships I've made since I've been a part of the society. And I think that when you leave every year, if you don't feel any of those things, then I would please contact me, because I want to know how in the world you missed it. You can't possibly, unless you just don't leave your room, you can't possibly not leave feeling motivated, inspired, excited. And the opposite of what some people who might not go, who might think, well, if I go and watch this artist, I'll just be intimidated. I just will realize how much I don't know. And I'm not, it's like Winston Churchill used to say, I don't want to take any classes at painting because I don't want to know how good or bad I am. I just want to paint. Well, maybe there's some people out there like that, but the majority of us want to get better. And the very best way to do that is to be able to learn from others. Mm-hmm. And there are also relationships that become extremely important, like mentoring relationships. An artist meets another, particularly a younger artist meets an older artist, and that artist takes interest in that artist, like in Stephanie's, that example you gave. And I've seen this with a number of people, and it certainly happened to me. Not only happened to me, I mentor artists that I've met at the Portrait Society conference just on my own. So I think that's a huge part of it. And, I think you're also going to see some pretty fine art, some pretty amazing works of art. I meant to say earlier, and I forgot about this, the 6x9 sale, that's not the only sale that we have every year too, Jeff. We also sell those demonstrations if the artists are willing to donate their demos, which most everybody is. And those will be available for sale. And there's people that walk away, with a Jeff HEIN hanging on their wall later that maybe they didn't have to pay gallery prices for.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that is a pretty sweet deal. Well, hey, Shane, it was great to have you on the podcast again. And I look forward to seeing you in a couple months. It's going to be fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. And thanks for your support. And thanks to all your listeners out there for their support. And I hope we see them at the 2024 conference. And don't forget to make your entry before the 5th at midnight. You can enter up to 3 pieces. And we would love to see this become the largest competition we've ever had.
Thanks for tuning in to the Undraped Artist Podcast. If you enjoyed it, subscribe. And if you could, leave a comment or review. That really helps the channel. Please share the show with your friends. And if you're feeling generous, consider a monthly donation at theundrapedartist.com. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week.